Hey everyone, I'm Alan Thrall, and in this video I want to give you some tips for those of you who want to incorporate running into your lifting routine. Now, I've already talked about in depth what I did in the past when I started running again, so I'll only briefly cover it here, but basically I just continued lifting as normal. I started running twice a week. I think it was Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I ran a short distance. It was like 1.5 miles to 2 miles, maybe a little over 2 miles. I ran very slow and I wasn't pressured by the pace. There's a sprinkler that's about to spray me, so that's what that noise is. Wasn't worried about the pace. I just ran extremely slow, and I was not in a rush to increase the pace or the distance. I just kept doing it over and over and over, week after week, until I felt like it was noticeably just too easy, and so I had to add more. So anyways, what I'm going to do is give you 6 tips or pointers that might help you out. They certainly helped me out. So tip number 1, don't worry about an initial drop in lifting performance. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it might. Don't freak out if it happens. While some people think that running and lifting weights are different, one is conditioning, one is resistance training, they are still training. And if you've been doing the same routine for a year or 2 years, if you're an intermediate and you're accustomed to doing the same lifting routine week in and week out, you've become accustomed to that. So if you add any more training on top of that, yeah, you might feel its effects. And this doesn't just pertain to running. If you add any sort of strenuous activity into your routine, you might do soccer a couple times a week or basketball a couple times a week, you might feel that in your lifting sessions. It's okay, it's normal, there's nothing wrong, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just a hump that you have to get over. Just stick with it, ride it out, don't be deterred by it. Tip number 2, switch up your pace. Running can be monotonous and it can be boring. I don't think so right now, but I certainly did when I first started running again. It's slow, it's steady, it's pretty low effort. Now, you might be used to lifting weights in the gym, giving everything you have for these 5 reps, and then stop, rest, relax, recover, and then do it again. While running is just slow, steady, continuous, low effort work. And so at first, if you want to go run 20 minutes, here's a scenario. You go for a jog, you're jogging along and you think, okay, this isn't too bad. All right, now it's starting to get a little uncomfortable. Now I'm starting to get out of breath. Now I'm starting to get tired. This is getting kind of hard. I don't know if I can last for 20 minutes. Okay, man, all right, now I just want to stop. I would just like to stop. It had to be about 10 minutes. How much time has passed? And you look down at your watch and you're only 1 minute in. So if that is you, try breaking your run down into digestible chunks. So this could be with pace or distance. What I would suggest first is, if you were going to run around your neighborhood, map out where you're going to run first. So let's say you're going to run a square down from your house. You go down this way, across, the 3rd leg is down, and then the 4th leg is back. You might just say, okay, for the first leg, I'll jog real slow, and then the 2nd leg across, I'll pick up the pace a little bit. 3rd leg, I'll jog slow. 4th leg, I'll jog fast. So just by doing that, you kind of break it into these 5-minute chunks. And so now all you have to do is hit these milestones. So I've just got to do this for 5 minutes and then do this for another 5 minutes, rather than trying to just last for 20 minutes, slow, steady pace, just running out pretty much into the oblivion and running until you're done. So I think breaking that up, you could also do that with time. So you could say, I'm going to jog for 2 minutes and then walk for 30 seconds, whatever, make it up. You can make it up on the fly when you're running. You could say, I'm going to jog to this next stoplight or this next stop sign. I'm going to jog to this shade, and then I'll pick it up from here. Just break up your pace a little bit, mainly to keep your mind engaged, so you're not just mindlessly jogging for 20 minutes. And when I say pick up your pace, just think of it as an easy, medium, hard pace. It does not need to be something that you're timing or tracking. Personally, I don't even do that. The only time I look at my watch when I'm running is if I'm running actual timed intervals. I just kind of know by feel what my pace is. I have 3 paces that I pay attention to. The first one is just a shuffle. I can do that for a long time. Next one, if I'm going to try to pick up pace, I'm just going to increase my stride length a little bit. So I'm going to open up my stride length. I'm not even necessarily trying harder. I'm just opening up my stride, and I'm trying to keep up with that. And that'll pick up the pace just naturally. And then the third, if I'm really trying to kick it up, I'll try to increase my stride rate. So I might hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll pick it up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't actually count. I'm just kind of trying to give you a visual. Point number 3, try hill sprints or incline treadmill running. Now, you don't have to necessarily do hill sprints. You could just do hill running or just running on some sort of grade. I know that this is determined by where you live. You might not have a bunch of hills in your area. And this doesn't have to be a 45-degree hill sprint. It could just, again, be a gradual increase. Running on hills is lower impact than running on flat ground, and especially running downhill. So when you're running on flat ground or when you're running downhill, there is some deceleration every time your foot hits, and there's some eccentric loading. You're kind of slowing yourself down as you run. I can just picture a 225-pound power lifter kind of barreling down the street, thud, 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 and there's a lot of impact slowing yourself down. With a hill, there's none of that. You're constantly trying to climb, dig, dig, dig. So you're climbing up this hill. It's just lower impact. Now, when I say these terms, lower impact, it's jarring, it's stressful. A lot of people will criticize running using those words. Oh, running's so stressful in the joints, just repeated impact, and it's just so strenuous, it's jarring. And then they'll go to the gym and they'll squat 350 pounds, right? It's a contradiction. And your non-lifting friends probably look at you and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe you put 300 pounds on your back and you squat. That's gotta be so stressful on your muscles and tendons and ligaments and joints. And you would look at them and say, I've adapted to that. I've grown accustomed to this. I've worked up to this. And now I'm proud that I'm strong enough to do this, strong enough to handle this. I'm resilient enough to do this. Running is the same way. It is not stressful on the joints and knees and hips and all this stuff. It's something that you just get accustomed to. So don't mind me for using those terms. Another bonus tip is try running if you have access to an assault runner or any other brand that's similar. It's like these curved treadmills. It's motorless and it's a curved treadmill. So when you are landing, it sort of absorbs your impact on this curve. You kind of go around in this curve rather than stomping on a flat treadmill. And it really does feel like a little less impact, especially for a bigger power lifter when they first start running. So if you have access to one, try it out. I like it a lot. Let's see, where was I? I'm kind of going off of my head here. Number 4 is, oh yes, focus on your technique. So everyone runs differently. Your running technique is gonna look different from mine, just like everyone squats differently. You might look at someone who squats and they're perfectly vertical. It almost looks effortless. It's just down and up. It looks beautiful. It's like a poster image for what a squat should look like. While some people have to bend over a lot, push their knees out a lot. They got to squat much slower. It doesn't look on paper, I'm about to get wet. It doesn't look on paper as, who turned up the water pressure? It doesn't look on paper as clean and effortless as someone else's squat. Running's the same. Some people look like just a gazelle kind of gliding across the ground, while some people look like a hippo barreling down the road. So, technique is gonna look different. That's totally fine. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you exactly how you should run or what your technique should look like. A lot of that is determined by your natural posture. Do you normally slouch? Are you really upright like this? Do you strike your heels when you walk? Do you walk up on your toes? Your running form and technique is probably gonna be determined by that, by your natural gait. All of that's totally fine. So now that that's out of the way, there are a few things that I think you could focus on that will improve your technique and it will make your running a little bit easier. These are pretty objective suggestions. None of this is contentious. I think any runner would pretty much agree with me when I say these things. So the things that I like to focus on. Number 1, relax your upper body. So relax your face, your jaw, relax your shoulders. Don't try to extend your upper back. Stick your chest out really hard. Put a bunch of tension in your upper back. Relax your arms, relax your hands when you're running. I kind of just put my thumbs on my index finger and run like that usually. Don't do this, flex here, don't clench your fists. Just relax your face, your shoulders, and your arms as you run. Next would be try to keep everything front to back. So you're pumping your arms pretty much front to back. You're moving your feet front to back. Try not to do too much swinging side to side with your elbows pushed out like this. You're not bouncing, you're striding side to side or galloping kind of in this diagonal motion. And try not to bounce too much. So I like to sort of think about keeping my head on a tightrope and I'm just kind of gliding across. I'm not bouncing way up and down like this. I'm not striding way off the ground like that and bouncing. And then lastly, this is probably the most important, and this is something I have to focus on often. Keep your hips underneath you, so you're not leaning your shoulders forward and sticking your butt back. I just think about bringing my hips forward underneath my body. I don't exaggerate it, but I try to stay upright when I'm running. And a lot of lifters, I think, will kind of fall forward and stick their butt back, sort of like they're falling forward for a couple of miles. So that's it. Stand up tall, bring your hips underneath you. Now, with all this technique, the reason I'm telling you this is the tip is to focus on technique and try to maintain your technique. Even when you're getting really tired or you're running really fast, you should maintain this technique. So what I like to think about when I'm running is maintain your bearing, keep your bearing. Don't, if I'm running really fast or I'm getting really tired, I don't want to throw my technique out the window and start running like I'm in a horror movie being chased by someone with a butcher knife. It's the same with lifting technique. You have this repeatable, established technique that you deem is good, and you should try to maintain that. A little bit of technique slip is fine, but if you're grinding out the ugliest squats you've ever seen, you should probably stop the set, stop the reps, and maybe lighten the weight or make an adjustment. Maybe call it a day. Tip number 5 would be, don't be afraid to push hard. So a lot of the tips you hear around running and lifting are good tips, and I would still stand by them. Start slow, start easy, don't get too many miles too soon, don't run too fast too soon, don't be in a rush to add intensity or volume. Start slow, progress slowly. That's all good info, and I agree. But don't be afraid to push it as well. It's just like someone who starts lifting. If they're just always lifting really light weight all the time, eventually they're going to need to start grinding against some heavy weight. Hey, you got to actually put some weight on the bar. And it's the same with running. You can actually push it every once in a while. Especially if you're only running, twice a week, a couple miles each session. So if you're running single-digit weekly mileage, you can afford to push it. Now, if you were running 4 or 5 times a week, you're clocking in 30, 40 miles, yes, you're going to have to regulate some of that so that not all of it is hard mileage. But if you're not running that much, don't be afraid to push it. What I like to think about is it should kind of go with your lifestyle. So let me give you 2 scenarios. The first one would be someone who's very sedentary. This could be voluntary or it could just be nature of their job. I know people who take a train, commute to work. It takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to commute one way, hour and a half, 2 hours to commute back. They sit at a desk all day. What's up, man? All right, I'll get out of here. Thanks, dude. Yeah, have a good one. Where was I? And so anyways, these sedentary people who sit all day, if you want to run a couple miles on top of that, I think a couple slow miles, that's all good. And that's probably enough. You're getting some running in, and you're also getting some cardio in, but you're also increasing your step count for the day. So slow, steady miles would be good for you. Now, if you're someone like myself who's already very active, I'm on my feet all day, I'm working in a gym, I'm working with clients, I weight train, I'm playing with my kids at the park, whatever it is. I'm already active all day, 15, 20,000 steps a day. Clocking in a couple of miles at the end of the day, really slow, doesn't do a whole lot for me. It just adds to my step count, which I don't need. So for me, I find that I do need some higher intensity runs. Doesn't mean I'm killing my legs every time I run, but I like to get my heart rate up pretty damn high, 170, 180 for an extended period of time. So I like that higher intensity stuff because I feel like I need that for my current situation. So again, don't be afraid to jump above 140 beats per minute or jump above zone 1, low zone 2. If you push it, you're fine. Number 6, before I have to get out of here, focus on the purpose and intent of your lifting sessions. So this is definitely anecdotal. This is just kind of what I do in my personal experience. Everyone's a slightly different suggestion here or recommendation because programming is individual. So you might be squatting once a week. You might be squatting 3 times a week. You might be training 5 times a week. You might be training 2 times a week. You might be doing 5 working sets. You might be doing 2 working sets. So I can't give hard recommendations, but here's what I would suggest. When I go into a training session, if I have to scale the session at all, because I had a long run and I'm tired, whatever it is. If I have to scale the session at all, I'm gonna think about what the intent of the session is and just focus on that. So for example, let's say today is a higher intensity day. So I need to lift heavy weight. Maybe I have 4 or 5 triples at a heavy weight, high percentage, high RPE. And I just feel a little bit tired and run down. My legs feel tired. Rather than sticking to the program and doing my 4 sets of 3 and using a lower weight, I'm just gonna do 1 top set of 3. So the goal is maximum muscle recruitment, maximum neurological engagement. I'm trying to grind against heavy weight. I need to lift heavy weight. I need to strain under a barbell. I need to get some psychological hype. I need to focus. So if that is the goal, I'm just gonna do 3s, triples all the way up, and do 1 really heavy, hard top set. Boom, call it a day. Rather than doing all of those triples at a lower weight. Now, if the goal is higher reps, let's say I'm doing 8, 10, 12 reps, and the goal is muscular exhaustion or muscular, I'm just trying to get that big pump, that lactic acid threshold. I'm just gonna, instead of doing 3 sets of 10, I might work up to 1 set of 10, 12, 15, maybe even 20 reps, call it a day. So just 1 long, hard set. So that's the goal for the day. I'm just gonna do that, get out of the gym. And I don't do that all the time. This is pretty much for maintenance, but I do that on days when I'm either pressed for time and I need to get my run in, or maybe my legs are just tired from a long run that I did earlier in the day or earlier in the week. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and always remember, train on time.